Achar.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Mina Mashhoon, and I am a graduate of the UT class of 2024. I'm here representing myself, and I speak to you today to advocate for the equal extension of free speech protection on campus. In my time at UT, I've participated in a variety of free speech activities. I've raised my hand in the classroom, I've worn t-shirts with political slogans, and even participated in peaceful and lawful protests. These are my rights as described in the United States Constitution, as well as by Governor Abbott in his 2019 executive order. These rights belong to everyone, including those whom I disagree with. Unfortunately, these First Amendment protections have not been extended to everyone in the UT community equally. For example, in the fall semester, a pair of men stood at the entrance to campus for multiple days and repeatedly yelled at female passerby, calling them property and rape bait. When students complained to administrators, they were told that nothing could be done, even though these men were not students, that UT is a public campus and everyone has the right to expression. Although the men's actions were hateful, disruptive, and threatening, their right to free speech was fiercely protected. The same cannot be said for UT students who attempted to peacefully protest the Palestinian genocide. Instead of a vehement defense of their right to free speech and assembly, my classmates were told that they were trespassing on their own campus. They were pepper sprayed, dragged away in zip ties, and denied immediate medical attention by law enforcement agencies. Some suffered physical injury, all suffered emotional injury. Regardless of their peace-loving, anti-genocide message, student protesters have been treated like anti-Semitic criminals, including those who are Jewish. In doing so, the ability to practice free speech at UT Austin has been severely and selectively curbed by both university administration and law enforcement. Senators, with all due respect, I urge you to protect the right to free speech for everyone, not just those that reflect the position of the state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yes.
Hello, Senators. My name is Samiha Rizvi, and I'm a recent graduate from UT Austin. I represent myself. I'm here to speak on topics of free speech, anti-Semitism, and DEI. However, I am here today not to speak about my own experiences, but rather to amplify the stories of fellow Texans. First, I would like to present to you the testimonies of people who are speaking on free speech and anti-Semitism. In all of these accounts, you will learn that the protests on college campuses were peaceful and only became violent when brought upon by police and counter-protesters. In the words of your invited speaker, Levi Fox, if anyone is afraid to express themselves, then we have failed as a country. Do those voices include Palestinian, Muslim, and Arab communities, all of whom have faced an uptick in hate crimes and discrimination following October 7th? Senator Creighton, I am Muslim, and when I was at UT, I did not feel safe. As a body, you have not done your due diligence of hearing all viewpoints. None of your invited testimonies were from the students protesting against the genocide, nor Palestinian Americans whose families are being murdered by our tax dollars. Do better. Second, I would like to present to you testimonies of students, staff, and faculty on DEI. Since January 1st, former DEI programs have worked to comply with the law, which includes crucial initiatives for student success. It's important to recognize that the impact of this law has been harmful. Staff layoffs, center closures, and challenges faced by student organizations and booking rooms are just a few examples. How is this equality? During the SB 17 debate, Senator Creighton, you suggested visiting campuses together to explain the bill's scope to fan the flames of fear. Just today, again, you mentioned many of UT's decisions go beyond the bill. You are confessing to overcompliance. Your words are contributing to a climate of fear rather than support of learning and progress. Overall, read these testimonies. I have nothing else to say because I don't know and I don't think you're really listening to me. If you are, I urge you to protect the well-being of all members of our community by repealing SB 17 as a whole and preserving our right to free speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Kara Achar, and I'm the engagement coordinator for the ACLU of Texas. I'm here because to honor and protect the First Amendment means to ensure that the government does not censor speech because of people's views. nor practice viewpoint discrimination in the creation or application of its rules. Anti-Semitism is real, as is Islamophobia, and both are morally reprehensible. Thankfully, universities already have legal obligations to protect students, faculty, and staff from harassment and hostile environments based on the targeting of any racial, ethnic, or religious group. It is essential that state leaders not conflate the lawful restriction of those behaviors with the unlawful stifling of unpopular or disfavored viewpoints. Texas students of all races and backgrounds deserve a high-quality, inclusive education, free from government censorship, that prepares them for the futures. As we all hopefully know, racism and its effects are certainly no relic of the past, and addressing racism requires acknowledging it and building institutional structures to combat it. By dismantling DEI offices, we're not eradicating the issues that prompted their creation in the first place. Rather, we're stripping away the vital supports that students and staff rely on to confront and mitigate those issues. Our institutions have lost a valuable recruitment tool, discouraging the best and the brightest from coming to Texas. Schools and their alumni reap significant financial and institutional benefits from the same athletes who are now being deprived of the offices that helped them enroll, thrive, and graduate from college. This loss of talent not only hampers the intellectual diversity of our campuses, but also diminishes their national reputations. It is imperative for the Senate to monitor and assess the impact of SB 17 on recruitment efforts and national rankings to understand the full extent of its consequences. The quality and rank of universities is often judged by their financial aid, their graduation rates, teaching resources, research funding, employment rates. The Senate must assess how these metrics have been impacted.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Go ahead.
My name is Pavitra Diol. I'm a trans Jewish person of color. I'm representing myself, and I'm speaking to the DEI ban and free speech on campus. I just graduated from UT. I went to the Gender and Sexuality Center, or Women's Community Center, often during my time there. I became so familiar with and passionate about the space that I started giving tours before I even worked there. Countless students benefited from our outreach, resources, and community. For me, I made long-lasting friendships, got advice when I needed it from the professional staff, which was always, and sought refuge in a queer space. The GSC kept me afloat in my best of times and my worst of times. And now it's gone, permanently closed. A beacon of hope, help, and love is gone because a group of legislators think that marginalized students don't deserve community or support. There was no guarantee that these services would be preserved for any students. State legislators wrote SB 17 to make college campuses more homogenous and hegemonic, and to suppress student voices they don't agree with. This law was never meant to be about fairness. It is meant to crush marginalized student communities out of fear and misunderstanding. This cannot stand. It will cause an intellectual and educational drought in our public higher education system, as students will not feel safe attending Texas institutions and new faculty will avoid them. Students who do attend will perform worse due to a lack of institutional support system. Forbes recently said that UT is a public Ivy, but this policy will run it into the ground. We demand that DEI offices, student centers, and funding be reinstalled on campuses for the sake of student well-being and future academic achievement. All students deserve to feel support on campus. I would be remiss if I did not also take the time to say that the silencing of marginalized student voices is directly correlated to the suppression of free speech on campus. It is students of color and queer students who often speak out the most and have been facing the most brutalization as of late on campus because of it. On April 29th, state troopers severely injured and arrested dozens of students at the UT encampment just for exercising their right to protest. I was there and received bruised ribs at the hands of state troopers. The state is not acting in the interest of students. If the state wants to stand for free speech, then they should actually protect students and not attack them. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Senator Menendez.
One question, Mr. Chairman. So earlier today, there was a question posed as to why would students, what was their intent in terms of going to protest, in terms of, is it to protest the war or is it to intimidate others? I think two of you at the beginning were there. Could any one of you just tell me what was the intent of your purpose at the protest? What were you trying to do?
Our intent is to get the university to divest from war profiteering.
That's yours. Let's go ahead.
Also to bring awareness about the ongoing genocide in Palestine. Over 40,000 people have been killed, children have been specifically targeted, aid hasn't been allowed in, and our government and our academic institution funds this.
Was it any of your purpose to intimidate anybody else?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Absolutely. A lot of the protesters and organizers are themselves Jewish. That kind of speech, hate speech, would never be tolerated in those spaces. And in fact, people are promptly removed if that's heard. It's absolutely not coming from the top if it's happening.
Thank you. Thank you.
If
Mr.
anything, the Zionist counter-protesters are the ones intimidating students.
I've been
And-
called a cockroach and a terrorist while police watched, and they didn't stop them. And that was during the 24th and the 29th.
Members, any other questions? Thanks for your time and your testimony. Chair calls Alex Blum, Hikmah Jamal, Ash Hall, Naomi Cruz. Alex Blum, Hikmah Jamal, Ash Hall, and Naomi Cruz. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Good evening, Chair Creighton and members of the committee. My name is Naomi Cruz, and I am a concerned UT Austin alumni and an incoming graduate student at UT Health. I am here today because I am deeply disturbed by the development of Texas public higher education institutions regarding DEI hiring practices and fostering environments. During my time at UT Austin, my peers and I found mentors in the Multicultural Engagement Center. We discovered community in a massive state school, a coveted resource. When UT Austin overcomplied with SB 17, firing over 142 people and closing this space, these people made sure to create a diverse array of opportunities and social events that not only alleviated some of my symptoms of stress and anxiety, but also lent me a lens to view things from all perspectives. Some of the events that I got to participate include the following: gender-inclusive events such as celebrating healthy masculinity, culturally rich events such as Dia de los Muertos celebration, leadership and career trainings, prevention, awareness, and advocacy to address interpersonal violence, unravel the impact of intergenerational and systemic trauma, and pursue community healing. We are already seeing countless negative effects of SB 17. University students were abruptly cut off from resources they were receiving, whether it is something as humanly essential as community, all the way to professional development, scholarships, mentorship, and basic necessities. Whether it's from stress, anxiety, depressions, or thoughts of suicide, the mental health of America's youth has grown steadily worse. And now this, you're actively disposing of productive initiatives when you could have easily created a plan to improve DEI or to collect better data on DEI initiatives to determine how services like the Multicultural Engagement Center benefited students, rather than to just shut them down and fire people. When implemented correctly, DEI initiatives have always been with the intention to provide resources and a platform for those who are historically underrepresented. DEI is critical in the development of one's intellectual capacity.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, committee. My name is Ash Hall. I represent myself and the ACLU of Texas, where I am a policy and advocacy strategist. I'm here today to talk about some of our concerns with the implementation of SB 17, the first issue being the harm to students that we're seeing. As we testified to you a year ago, entire sections of this law undermine and thwart the promise of a fair, inclusive, and safe college experience. And predictably, this law has caused harm to students. So, for example, we've seen the closures of multicultural centers on campuses that were designed to give Black, Indigenous, and people of color, also known as BIPOC, students spaces on campus where they wouldn't have to face harassment, discrimination, or violence. These centers were often the only places where students of all races felt comfortable reporting incidents of racism on campus, allowing staff to help escalate reports to the proper university officials and channels. We've also seen the closure of LGBTQ+ centers on campuses across the state. including the one at UT Austin that helped me become the advocate and person I am today. These centers have consistently outperformed campus medical clinics with regards to offering HIV/AIDS testing that students actually felt comfortable using. They also saved the lives of LGBTQ plus students who experience higher rates of suicidal ideation because of the discrimination that they face. Not only did my Gender and Sexuality Center save my life, but I witnessed it do the same for other students. Now these centers are closed on campuses across the state, leaving these students with less resources to keep them physically and emotionally well so that they can succeed in school and graduate. Furthermore, this law has not been implemented the way this legislature said that it would be. Senator Creighton, on April 19th, 2023, in response to Senator Miles, you said, "This legislation doesn't do anything to affect the availability of student support services that help the students that need help the most." Obviously, that hasn't gone as planned since these centers are closed. A month later, Representative Kemple said this bill won't result in anyone losing their jobs. Staffs will be reassigned. UT Austin let go of 60 plus people.
Thank you for your testimony. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name is Hikmat Jamal, and I am a student at the University of Texas at Austin. Help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or he is an oppressed one. Our prophet tells us to help the oppressed or the oppressor. For the oppressor, it's helping them get out of their oppression, and for the oppressor, it's helping them realize their wrongs. This is just a short excerpt from the activism that is emphasized and fundamental tenet in our faith. Prior to Wednesday, April 24th, I would admire the walk to class on the campus I once dreamed of attending. Unfortunately, I no longer feel the confidence nor inspired as I walk on campus. However, it has been made clear by the committee, by the University of Texas system, and all of our leaders that our feelings do not matter. Facts do not care about our feelings, so let us talk about some facts. There were 3 targeted hate crimes against Muslims on our campus just this year. According to the Washington Post early this year, hate crimes targeting Arabs, Muslims, and Jews have surged in the United States and worldwide since October 7th. In February, a 23-year-old Zakaria Duar was leaving a protest near UT when he was violently attacked, leaving him hospitalized. According to a press source, the arrest affidavit states the assaulter yelled racial slurs at Duar and his friends before dragging him out of the car and stabbing him a few inches from his heart, resulting in a broken rib. During Ramadan on March 5th, 2 male students were walking home after night prayers at the masjid when they were taunted and beaten by 3 unidentified males on campus. The men began by mocking the students, one of whom was dressed in identifiable cultural attire, yelling Allahu Akbar, which escalated to then blocking exit paths, instigating a physical assault, and then threatening to have a weapon. This assault was followed by a verbal attack instigated by a group of unidentified males on 2 Muslim women after heading home from the masjid, one of whom was visibly wearing a kufiya hijab. CARE has seen a 178% increase of complaints of bias and discrimination since 2022. In earlier testimonies, we heard Levi Fox state, "If anyone in this great nation is afraid to express their freedom, then our nation has failed them. Our nation and state have failed me." Our state has failed the Muslim and Palestinian students who simply choose to exercise their constitutional right to free speech. Today, Senator Creighton claimed it is un-Texan and un-American to hide your faith, yet those in power have advocated for behavior that forces me and my community to hide ourselves and our faith. We are unable to proudly practice our religious freedom and constitutional rights. Free Palestine.
Okay, appreciate your testimony. Members, any questions? Senator Menendez.
Very quickly, Senator Creighton, and just a small correction. It was Senator Middleton that said that it was un-Texan to hide your faith. I was listening very intently. So we've been here all day. You feel, as a student at UT, and you may have heard me earlier, I abhor discrimination, prejudice, bigotry towards anybody. I don't want anybody feeling isolated or afraid because of their identity, because of their gender, because of their faith. And so I've been listening to these stories. So you've shared with us about your experience. So you felt Islamophobia, you felt unwelcome, and have you felt that you can practice your faith? I mean, I'm just curious about your personal. Is there anything you didn't state? Because I'm sure you represent a lot of people.
I definitely feel unsafe as I walk the campuses. It's definitely unsettling to see my peers go through these experiences of getting harassed on campus just because of what they're wearing. And the hijab is a very visible key of our faith. So it's very easy to identify us. I'm terrified walking on campus. I'm terrified walking in West Campus. I found one safe place, which is our masjid, but as soon as I step foot out of there, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if advocating for the lives of innocent people is going to end me up harmed and dead. And that terrifies me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. Any other questions? Appreciate your testimony. This time, the chair will call David Albert, Shemaiah Zayan, Mars Giles. Also, Alicia Castillo.
Start.
Go ahead.
My name is David Albert. I am a professor of government. I have an MA in Middle East Studies, a PhD in government, both from UT Austin. My dissertation was on the U.S.-Israel special relationship. I want to talk to you about anti-Semitism from my perspective as a proud American Jew. Since the atrocities of October 7th, there have been many protests against Israel's invasion of Gaza. Most of them have been completely peaceful. There has certainly been examples of anti-Semitism at protests around the country, but they are the exception. In many cases, the term anti-Semitism is being misapplied to demonize peaceful protesters. Anti-Semitism is simply hatred of Jews, not criticism of Israel. Criticism of the actions of the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic. Criticism of the Netanyahu government is not anti-Semitic. Criticism of the Israeli occupation or the Gaza operation are not anti-Semitic. Criticism of the existence of the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic. That is called anti-Zionism, which is the equivalent to criticizing the existence of any state or national movement. In some cases, anti-Zionism may go over the line and become anti-Semitic. I am a Zionist. I disagree with anti-Zionists, but anti-Zionism is not inherently anti-Semitic bigotry or racism. In closing, I want to add that there have been at least as many and likely more attacks on Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims since October 7th as there have been attacks on Jews. Both types of attacks are reprehensible and offensive, and I wish to ask this committee and its chairman, why is this committee not addressing both of these sickening forms of racism and bigotry today? Because Arabs and Muslims are also your fellow Texans, and they deserve to have a hearing and to have their pain heard and expressed. Thank you, and I'm glad to answer any follow-up questions on this difficult topic, since as a professor, it's really hard to deliver a lecture in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Shaimaa Zayan. I'll testify for college students' free speech. I'm here to represent myself and other first-generation Americans like me. Yes, the U.S. might not be our country of origin, but we choose U.S. to be our kids' country of origin. I'm a mom of 3 kids, all born here. I'm a former Texas certified high school teacher, and I'm a graduate of UT Austin Special Education and Diversity Program. Growing up and attending college in Egypt, my public university was surrounded by a fence with a security gate where I had to show my ID card and open my purse for the same security guy every morning for 5 years to look inside my purse with the same suspicious look. We choose the US to be our kids' country of origin because the universities here are not surrounded by fences. Students are able to express themselves inside and outside classrooms, and order is maintained by justice before anything else. I went to grad school at UT Austin and studied special education and diversity. My American professors, mostly white, taught me how to advocate for my students and how to give voice to the voiceless. They taught me that as educators, our role is to facilitate the students' learning through rich discussions of materials that present different points of views. They taught me that dictation has no place in the 21st century. They taught me how to create a safe environment for all of my students. And finally, they taught me to set the rules for my students, but give them many opportunities to express their opinions and choose for themselves so that they may stay engaged in the learning process. I'm asking you to stay true to the American values. Do not surround universities with fences of fear. Keep the gate open to critical thinking and diversity, and do not look at your students with a suspicious lens. Thank you so much.
Good. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Castillo. I'm speaking on behalf of the Texas Civil Rights Project and also myself as the mother of 2 quarter Palestinian children. Texas Civil Rights Project is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We're committed to defending civil rights in Texas, particularly for marginalized communities. As part of the value system that guides us, we denounce unequivocally violence and hate in all forms against all people. That includes state-sanctioned violence against those who exercise their First Amendment right to protest. People often reflect on hypothetical roles that they might have had in the civil rights movement of the past. When Black students and their peers sat at lunch counters for all whites, would I have sat beside them, or would I have been one of the people throwing milkshakes at them? Would I have cheered on little Ruby Bridges as she walked her way into the first integrated school in the South? Or would I have been one of the adults screaming at her from the sidewalk? Or perhaps more relevant to you all, would I have even voted for school integration in the first place? In 2022, Texans renewed their pursuit of justice and took conscious steps to continue the unfinished business of the civil rights movement. Yet bills like SB 17 and discussions around criminalizing free speech impede progress. In thinking of our history, I'm also struck by the fact that many of the rights we currently revere, they were once considered civil disobedience, disruptive, and/or illegal. One of MLK's most powerful speeches is called Letter from the Birmingham Jail, which he wrote from the Birmingham jail. And in this moment, we're faced with lots of choices that define our history. Will we stand for progress, justice, and equity? Or stand for those things just for the people who look like us? In the upcoming 89th legislative session, I hope we choose everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mars Giles, and I am speaking on the topic of the DEI bill SB 17, and I'm representing myself. I'm a transfer student at the University of Texas at Austin, and one of the reasons why I transferred was for the diversity that a large public university like UT could offer. I thought that diversity was one of the core values at UT, something that the university took pride in and respected. But you have decided that students and staff who've made an effort to strengthen the university community as a whole do not matter. Diversity and inclusion are not bad words. There are systematic disadvantages for certain groups, and the programs that you are trying to get rid of just want to even the playing field. You think that places like the Multicultural Engagement Center or the Gender and Sexuality Center are exclusionary, when in fact the opposite is true. Those spaces are put in place as a safe place for students who are searching for a sense of belonging, which everyone deserves. Everyone is welcome. It does not harm the majority to include the minority. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, very
Appreciate
quickly.
you. Senator Menendez.
Very quickly. Ms. Castillo, as you quoted the letter from Birmingham, do you remember what Dr. King's crime was?
Yeah, I do actually. His crime was parading without a permit, without a city permit.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Thank you. Doctor, the gentleman, the doctor, yes, if you could get us a copy of your remarks, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
actually, it includes an extended definition, explanation of anti-Semitism.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you for
Ms.
reminding
Doctor.
me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This time, the chair calls Julie Minnick, Tyler Sheldon, Jessica Macias, and Levi Fielder. Levi Fiedler,
Yes, sir.
rather. Ms. Tyler Sheldon still with us? And Julie Minnick or Minich? Jessica Macias? Okay. Go ahead.
Howdy, my name is Levi Fiedler, and I am testifying on behalf of myself and the Texas Freedom Network. I graduated from Texas A&M University 4 days ago. One of my earliest memories as an Aggie was learning that 1 out of every 3 students at my freshman orientation had never even met an openly LGBTQ+ person. The only thing that made me feel like I had a chance of succeeding at A&M was learning that we had the LGBTQ+ Pride Center. But thanks to SB 17 and its over-implementation, that center does no longer exist. If the intent of SB 17 were truly to foster equal opportunity, then its implementation would not look like stripping leadership opportunities away from students simply because their work involves being Black, brown, and LGBTQ+. And it would not look like eliminating resource centers that facilitate access to mental health services, mentorships, and books. Equal opportunity requires a level playing field, and Black, brown, and LGBTQ+ students do not have access to a level playing field. We are attending universities that did not allow our grandparents to attend, the same universities that fought for the Supreme Court to ban a support organization for gay students, and that are now too afraid to have a voluntary resource table for LGBTQ+ students and students of color in a hallway during freshman orientation. Public universities in Texas should and can be places where every student can thrive. This law and its over-implementation are rewinding the clock on Texas' discriminatory history while threatening students' ability to be safe, embraced, and uplifted on college campuses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levi. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members. My name is Tyler Sheldon. I'm the Legislative Director with the Texas State Employees Union. On January 1st, SB 17 went into effect, and then almost 4 months later, on March 26th, Senator Creighton sent a letter to university systems. The following week, April 2nd, UT abruptly fired over 60 employees associated with DEI that many believed were already in compliance. TSU and campus organizations planned a support DEI rally to discuss their layoffs for Thursday, April 25th at UT. However, another peaceful demonstration was planned for the day before and was met with overwhelming amount of force, stifling their rights of assembly and free speech. The DEI rally was rescheduled to Monday, April 29th in order to allow campus and organizations to reflect on the events that had occurred on campus. While rescheduling, our members expressed great concern relating to safety. The safety concerns were not reflected on potential violence from protesters, but a fear of retaliation or preemptive violence directed toward the public by either UT or the state of Texas. On Monday, April 29th, TSU and allied groups did meet under the UT Tower and had a very engaging discussion regarding the overcompliance and wrongful layoffs that occurred at UT. There were about 200 concerned students and faculty involved, and unlike the demonstrations the week before, we were not met by armed troopers. It's important that free speech protections such as in SB 18 from 2019 be applied equally to all, and that the state and universities are not allowed to pick and choose which speech is protected. We must also ensure faculty and staff are protected from losing their jobs due to overcompliance by universities and continue to evaluate potential negative impacts on students, faculty, and staff across the state.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Jessica Wheeler Macias, and I am talking today about free speech. I'm the founder for Parents for Peace. Parents for Peace is a grassroots, statewide movement of parents and community members. Our work is to motivate and engage our community and to support college students who are placing their lives, careers, and sanctity on the line. These students are looking to the community at large for support in every single facet. This movement has been fully led by students who are tasked with balancing homework, research, projects, finals, midterms, all the while fighting to raise awareness and stop a genocide. This issue hits close to home for me. My own college experience was marred by the 9/11 attacks and witnessing my beloved grandfather's life threatened by a stranger. It struck me that a well-loved Lebanese American man, a past municipal court judge, and an attorney in the tight-knit community of Victoria, Texas, could be victim to racism and hate. It was years later when the Muslim ban was passed that my sleepy South Texas town was thrown into the national spotlight when the local mosque was torched, burned in apparent hate crime. As you're painfully aware, legislation has a real-life consequence, and it can make or break a thriving community. And we can support these students by not only physically being there for them, but using our political power and economic power. It is truly an honor to speak with everyone here today. And it's the reason why Parents for Peace exists. I've spent time carefully reviewing statements by leadership, showing solidarity and concern only for Israel, with no acknowledgement of the ongoing and historical suffering and death of Palestinians. This is an unbalanced and biased stance that can be harmful to this political institution, and more importantly, to many students and faculty. It ripples into communities all across Texas. I'm here today to declare to all the universities with which individuals are affiliated as alumni of students or parents of alumni that they will never get another dime, until they divest from weapons manufacturers and companies. I can promise you that. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, members, any questions? Thank you. Appreciate you. Chair calls Rachel Wilson, Rochelle Wilson, Mandy Giles, Brian Evans, Pat Heintzelman.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
I'm testifying on the issue of free speech on college campuses. I'm here in the capacity of a member of the Austin community, a Texas resident, an avid voter, and I am also a mother who hopes that someday her
I'm sorry, but if you could, please state your name.
Oh, sorry, Rochelle Wilson.
Got it.
Thank you. I'm also here as a mother who hopes that someday her child will be able to attend a university where they will be encouraged to learn, grow, and exercise their right to free speech. If y'all remove that right, then the university that my child, who is an 8th generation Texan, goes to someday will absolutely not be in the state of Texas. I came here today to tell this body that by stripping students of their rights to free speech, you are doing a disservice to the future generations. And a lot of that, many of you won't even be here to witness. A future where the children of today have become the leaders of tomorrow. Future leaders who will be shaking their heads in shame, exasperation, and confusion about how a group of lawmakers in Texas once thought they would rewrite our Bill of Rights to service their own agendas. Lawmakers who had the audacity to commend police violence against students while simultaneously trying to censor those same students. I encourage each of you to think long and hard as you make this decision. Think about what kind of legacy you will be leaving. Think about how your actions here today will be remembered and how they will be viewed in 40 or 50 years. It's been made clear that many of you don't really care that much about students and young people in your communities. If you did, you'd be protecting them from gun violence, hunger, homelessness, not from free speech. But you do seem to care about yourselves, so perhaps as a form of self-preservation, you'll see fit not to unilaterally impose your own, or AIPAC's, misguided ideas about what constitutes anti-Semitism and hate speech. Speaking out against the brutal, systematic murder of tens of thousands of Palestinians, a majority of whom are women and children, is not anti-Jew, it is not anti-Semitic. You serve at the pleasure of Texas voters. Texans are a diverse group of citizens with many differing opinions and beliefs, but we will coalesce right, left, and middle around freedom of speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members of the committee, my name is Pat Heintzelman. I'm a long-serving professor at a small regional university, speaking as a private citizen, as a member of 3 advocacy governing boards in Texas, and as state president of the Texas Faculty Association. As the subcommittee may recall, the Texas Faculty Association opposed Senate Bill 17 as a serious threat to important programs and personnel at our higher education institutions, DEI programs offered a wide variety of services designed to widen college recruiting, enhance student resilience, and enhance student safety. The passage of SB 17 damaged these important initiatives in ways students and faculty warned it would in the 88th session, and in so many ways you've heard in other people's testimony today. The implementation of SB 17 is sending a strong message to current and prospective faculty and students that Texas does not welcome a strong, diverse, and empowered higher education community. We observed during hearings on this bill in the last session that the vagueness of the language and the harsh penalties for noncompliance would likely create risk aversion and chilling effects. Sadly, the last 4 months appear to confirm this prediction. The TFA has received much higher than usual numbers of reports from faculty across the state regarding concerns over non-renewals, firings, curriculum changes, workload assignments, grant applications, free speech, viewpoint diversity, as well as other fears, specific and general. We are losing good people, exceptional students, and talented faculty as a result of this legislation without good reason. Texas is now less competitive in higher education than it was just months ago. The TFA will continue to oppose such arbitrary policies in higher education. We will work to catalog the losses of students, faculty, and grants that are already occurring and will continue to occur. We ask this committee to rethink this legislation and its implementation in the very spirit of critical thinking and open inquiry we are working so hard to defend. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate your testimony. Go ahead.
My name is Brian Evans. I'm speaking for myself as a private citizen, and I'm testifying on the implementation of Senate Bill 17. I'm also a tenured professor of engineering at UT Austin. I'm a member of the American Association of University Professors, AAUP, where I serve as president-elect of Texas AAUP. Texas AAUP didn't see a need for SB 17, and we opposed it. The vague nature of SB 17 has led to real fear and a chilling effect on teaching, research, and expression at our public colleges and university. Under Senate Bill 17, penalties for faculty or staff include termination. Yet SB 17 has ambiguity in how training programs, activities, or expression could be interpreted by a student, employee, or the institution as being banned under the law. What constitutes diversity training? Giving advice to a student, holding a casual conversation, training teaching assistants. The ambiguity creates a chilling effect for professors, academic advisors, and others to participate in or promote programs to support our students. In classes, many faculty are scaling back topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though academic course instruction has a carve-out. SB 17 has exceptions for scholarly research, but places restrictions on grants. Grants are not only important to develop new breakthroughs, but also to train tens of thousands of undergraduate and graduate students critical to the workforce each year, including, but not limited to, STEM fields. Without a DEI infrastructure, faculty and staff have lost competitiveness for many grants and even failed to be eligible to apply to others. Colleges and universities have already returned grants due to SB 17 taking effect. With the chaotic environment SB 17 has created, public colleges and universities in Texas are losing credibility, prestige, and a competitive edge versus private and out-of-state colleges and universities. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator West.
Okay, I'm sorry, your name, sir, again?
It's Professor Brian Evans.
Brian Evans, okay. Professor Brian Evans.
Dr. Brian Evans would be better.
All right, doctor. Is that PhD?
It is PhD.
What does PhD stand for? That's all right, don't worry. You have testified that Texas has lost grants. You know that for a fact?
Yeah, so I will, again, speaking for myself as a private citizen, so UT Austin had to return a $500,000 NSF grant as a result of Senate Bill 17.
And as a result, and you know that's for a fact?
Yes.
Were there any other grants that they...
We also heard from Dr. Andrea Gore that renewal is not possible in one of the grants they've had for 37 years in a row due to Senate Bill 17.
Okay, and this, and how recent is this?
How
recent? When did this occur?
This is since January 1st, 2024.
Okay, and what department is this?
This one is going to be a training grant that's, I would have to I can get back to you on the department of it. It's for graduate student training.
What I'm trying to do is trace it down.
It's National Science Foundation grant.
Okay, but I mean, over at UT, I need to.
I can
need
give
to
you
get with my staff.
I'll be glad to give you the details.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Also, I would add, maybe Senator West just requested the same, but if you could provide us with what you have on that.
In fact, just provide it to the committee, and the committee will make certain.
We'll make sure all the members have it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any questions? Okay, at this time, the chair will call Melanie Pang, Kennedy Cortez, Leonardo Garcia, Mandy Giles.
Is that one of the questions that we asked? Yeah. Check and see. I think that's one of the questions. Yeah.
Okay, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
My name is Melanie Pang. I'm from Houston and a professor at the University of Houston Graduate College of Social Work. I'm speaking as a private citizen, not representing UH. I was a UH undergraduate student who was part of the decade-long effort to get an LGBTQ resource center established, the same resource center you took away from my students overnight. I returned to UH as an adjunct and then a full-time professor under a dean who was openly abolitionist, who was later abruptly removed from his role. SB 17 then forced my college to remove its racial justice principles from our website, more attempts at inclusion that you took away from me and my community. I can't tell you how it feels to see progress made since I started at UH in 2005, only to come back to my alma mater as a professor and see that students have fewer reasons to come here now in 2024 than I once did. I have such gratitude for UH and how it shaped me, so I feel especially frustrated by today's hearing. It is unhinged that we are here to discuss anti-Semitism, freedom of speech, and the removal of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the same hearing. It is DEI programming that builds the empathy required to fight bias and discrimination against marginalized communities, for example, ending anti-Semitism. One of the primary elements of DEI is understanding how community struggles intersect. DEI programs teach us not to conflate some people's actions with the actions of an entire group, like conflating Hamas with Palestine, or say the Texas legislature with Texans' values. It teaches us to think at systems level and be critical thinkers. To outlaw forms of speech and protest is real rich coming from y'all, grasping at straws to justify your violence against people you don't want to exist. Where is the hearing to ensure all students have enough to eat, that trans students can access the health care they need, quality housing they can afford, mental health that can be supported? Where's the hearing around student debt, or even the cost of accessible parking, which ranges from $446 to $1,815 a year for faculty and staff who have to pay to go to their jobs and pay to go to classes? Get a hobby, make new friends, look into therapy or a mirror, and stop promoting white supremacy.
Greetings. I'm Leonardo Javier Garcia. I'm born and raised Webb County, Texan, and a rising fourth-year student at UT Austin representing myself. Recent developments in Texas public higher education concerning DEI have deeply troubled me due to the vague and unclear SB 17 directive, resulting in far-reaching consequences. SB 17 has had forced consequences, personally affecting my experiences as a, quote, underserved student, end quote, terminology used in SB 17. The bill impacts programs like Explore UT, part of my educational journey, a transformative experience that shaped my perspective and aspirations and benefited underserved students. Explore UT, a program that allowed me to set foot on the 40 acres for the first time during a high school visit in 2019, has been disrupted since 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Further destabilizing its future, Chairman Creighton's March 26 letter to Texas public higher education institutions regarding SB 17 compliance preceded the April 2nd decision to rehouse Explore UT under the Chief Experience Officer in the Office of University Events announced by UT Austin President Jay Hartzell, exemplifying the far-reaching effects of SB 17. Despite provisions in the Texas Education Code, such as SB 17 created Section 513525C, which should protect initiatives like Explore UT, has failed to do so amidst vague guidance and ambiguous language. This uncertainty affects prospective students like me and undermines the integrity of equitable initiatives across Texas public universities. It's frustrating to feel the consequences of SB 17 with the bill's unquantifiable impact hurting underserved student populations. I strongly advocate for a comprehensive overturn of SB 17. We owe it to current and future students to ensure equity and clarity in higher education policies, and a thorough reconsideration of this legislation is a first step towards achieving this.
My name is Mandy Giles. I live in Houston, and I'm speaking on SB 17 on behalf of myself and the organization Parents of Trans Youth. One of my kids just graduated from UT Austin last week, and one will be a senior there next year. Both kids deliberately chose a large state university because of its rich diversity of academic thought, students, and university programs. My kids also chose UT for its LGBTQ student services because my kids happen to be transgender. Programs like the Gender and Sexuality Center let my children know that they were safe on campus, that they belonged on campus, and that they were included in the campus community. I hope you know that it is not easy or safe to be a transgender Texan right now. But as a mom, I knew that if anything happened to my kids at school, if they experienced discrimination or, God forbid, violence, they had a university program that could help them when I couldn't be there. But starting in January, the state eliminated those programs. So now I wonder if my children are actually safe. Who has their backs now? Are my children truly included in UT's stated core values of caring community and diverse people and ideas? You are all parents, and most of you are grandparents. And so you know what it's like to worry about your children. So I want you to imagine that twisted feeling in your stomach when you're not sure if your child is safe or not. Imagine that feeling times the hundreds of thousands of families with marginalized students at Texas public universities wondering if their children are actually safe and supported. And how do you think the students themselves feel being sent the message from their state government that they don't really belong in their campus community? Is that equal opportunity? I don't think so.
Thank you. Go ahead.
First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of Turtle Island, so I expect the respect of listening. My name is Kennedy Cortez. I'm a first-generation indigenous student who has just graduated this weekend from UT with a degree in neuroscience. I'm also the co-director of a resilient group called the Native American and Indigenous Collective. I come here today with 3 demands: reinstate DEI across Texas college campuses, free speech on college campuses, which is protected under your constitution, and the divestment from genocide in Palestine. Despite it being my last, this semester has been the most exhausting time of my life. With the ban of DEI on college campuses, specifically with UT Austin being the most over-compliant campus, which is seen by its removal of programs who were in compliance with SB 17, such as the Immigration Student Service Program, Monarch, and the only Native American organization on campus. To the ongoing genocide in Palestine, which governments are trying to censor free speech, and a movement that is larger than the systems in place because it is an ethnic cleansing of a whole people, exactly like the ethnic cleansing that happened to my people, the original people of these lands. As somebody who has witnessed generations of different indigenous people being killed and oppressed to a system of supremacy, I can tell you 2 things. We're not going anywhere, and we're not going to rest until we're able to liberate all people. As far as SB 17, the mental health that everybody is concerned about, we're here telling you. I have had so many of my friends withdraw from classes, drop classes. I myself have not been able to even wrap my head around the fact that I graduated this semester because I'm so just disappointed in this legislation, disappointed in UT, and truly, like, the SB 17 bill itself is so vague because no sponsorships are allowed because everybody is afraid of this bill and how vague it is.
Thank you for your time. Members, questions? Appreciate your testimony. Chair calls Dylan Villalon, Jim Crosby, Laisha Gonzalez, Jesse Drummond.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator King.
While everybody's coming up, I have a feeling that a lot of the witnesses, particularly in another room, may be trying to be thinking out their evening and how long they need to make arrangements to be here. How many more witnesses do we have?
We have 86 more witnesses.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, we'll start with you.
Hello. My name is Dylan Villalone, and I'm here on behalf of the Move Texas Action Fund. We build political power for young Texans across the state. And I want to start off with quoting Governor Abbott from 2019 while he was signing a law that guarantees free speech. He said that we shouldn't have to do it and that the First Amendment guarantees it. We similarly, all here today, feel that we shouldn't have to be here at this hearing pushing back against efforts to silence student voices whose views don't align with the state. College campuses have always been a site of contest and a safe place to challenge the status quo. So to take DPS officers in riot gear to meet peaceful protesters on campus only sends one message. It says that dissent will be met with force rather than dialogue. And this heavy-handed approach stifles free expression and undermines the very principles this chamber and Senate Bill 18 allegedly sought to uphold. Students across Texas will be better served by measures like developing educational materials on free speech rights, providing access to legal supporter services, and partnering with trained social workers to de-escalate conflicts and provide mental health services when it's needed. And it's also not lost on us that these hearings are being held as people oppose genocide in Palestine, but we hear nothing in response to the neo-Nazi activity all across Texas. Clearly, that makes it clear to us that these hearings are a reaction to a movement and to a moment. And anti-Semitism does exist here in Texas. It's in the neo-Nazi and the white supremacist spaces. That reality should never be used for political gain. Protest moments like the Black Lives Matter movement, like the George Floyd uprisings and the Palestinian Solidarity movement are expressions of political power possessed by young Texans, and the subject of today's hearings should be interpreted as a response to state leadership to the moral demands of a new generation. And whether it's using DPS to clear student protesters at UT, or whether it's using measures like Executive Order 44 and Senate Bill 17 or 18, it seems like the only thing our state leadership knows how to do is to treat the newest generation of engaged students like a threat. Move Texas remains alert and committed to ensuring that young Texans' voices are heard, the right to organize is respected, and that the freedom of expression of dissent is protected on all political settings. Thank you, and Free Palestine.
I am Jim Crosby, speaking in opposition to SB 17. I taught 12th grade theology, that's religion to 17 and 18-year-olds, for 27 years and served as lay chaplain at St. Stephen's Episcopal School here in Austin. First, I want to thank you for everything you do and can do to support the freedom of speech. In 2018, I founded Nonviolent Austin. We have a vigil for peace and justice out front on the 11th Street sidewalk every Friday from 4 to 5. And I invite you all to come outside and join us and exercise your freedom of speech. I'm also on the coordinating committee for the Texas Poor People's Campaign. We'll be part of a June 29th March on Washington and to the polls in D.C. I urge you on the committee and everyone in the room to come to that. I'm a 71-year-old white lifelong Texan. I have swum in the sea of the legacy of white supremacy in the U.S. all my days. Efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion are essential on every campus in this country. I plead with you to reverse this ban. My concern is that this law perpetuates racism and other forms of discrimination in our state and our country. Let me tell you about my friend Yvonne. She was arguably the greatest teacher at St. Stephen's, even though she never taught in the classroom. She was our DEI director. Several thousand students across 3 decades, not to mention staff and faculty members, learned history, compassion, and a burning desire for justice from Yvonne. She was a proud East Austinite and a proud Aggie. She was so good on the A&M women's basketball team, they called her Yvonne the Thrill Hill. She told a story from her first week on staff at St. Stephen's, which was my first week too. Someone turned to hand her an empty glass, assuming on the basis of race she was waitstaff, and she was actually one of the new employees being welcomed and honored. I wondered through the years if I might have been that offender. Could have been. She sent me one year to the annual White Privilege Conference about 20 years ago to help me understand more and better. She passed away about 6 months ago, and way too early, and I just want to encourage us all to do all we can to foster the careers of many more courageous healers like my friend Yvonne. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessie Drummond. I want to be clear, I'm here today representing myself as a Texan taxpayer. I am worried I'm the only staff member here because I might be the only one that still has a job. So many of us are scared that there will be more cuts to jobs and programming that is crucial to student life and are worried about the retaliation from lawmakers. Equity is not for some, it is for all. If you want to recruit more diversity in colleges, you have to provide them places to find others like them. As a white woman, it's not hard for me to find others like me when there are more than 56% of people on campus like me. You can recruit all you want, but they won't stay if they don't feel welcomed. In the past months, mental health has been an all-time low. Numerous students have come into my office crying because their mentors and programs that they have loved over the past 3 years have been dissolved due to a law written by people who graduated college before I was born. I have had to defund student-paid positions, part of a student organization. Furthermore, I've been told that I can't use donor money or grant money to fund them now as a registered organization. The guidance I have received has been vague, and it feels like a bad game of telephone. I have had coworkers that have reached out to legal affairs to see if their programs are compliant and have never heard back. But in order to be careful, their supervisors had just had them close the program, just in case. Like students have said, fear has overtaken our campuses and overcompliance is the result. Texas is a diverse place and students should be able to engage with that diversity and with intellectual curiosity. Attacks on DEI programs and initiatives through legislation like SB 17 represent an attempt at denial of the past and suppression of the present in favor of a whitewashed campus life. We are asking for a complete reversal of SB 17, which is a reasonable request considering that the sprawling impacts have developed from its vague nature. And this law is unclear and it is causing universities to go above and beyond despite not breaking any rules. We have some of the top universities in the nation staffed by excellent professionals, and overcompliance is threatening their jobs, campus communities, and our education. Thank you.
Mr. Drummond.
Yes, Senator West.
You know, out of all due respect to everyone that's testifying against this, the only way that you're going to change this is to vote. Okay? Bottom line, it's the only way that you're going to change this policy in the state of Texas is to vote. You can keep that up. Okay? And so, you know, I appreciate your testimony. Appreciate you voting, you saying you're against it. But the reality is, if you're going to change it, you got to vote.
Greetings from the indigenous land of Turtle Island. My name is Leisha Renee Gonzalez, a student representative with the state of Texas and UT are constantly oppressing. I'm a queer first-generation Mexican-American daughter of immigrants and the first in my family to attend a U.S. university thanks to the Terry Foundation. I am from Laredo, Texas, and I believe in a free Palestine. I'm here today because I am too emotionally drained and enraged by the developments of SB 17. Growing up, I was a fearless, strong, ambitious little girl, as I still am. I always walk through life committed to leaving the doors once open for me, open for others. I'm heartbroken, as you can tell, to imagine the little girl in me and reveal to her, like so many other little kids, that no matter how much I want to keep the door open, our oppressive state and school of our dreams continues to place locks on the doors. At UT, I have tirelessly supported students as an orientation advisor, minority women mentor, Plan 2 mentor, founder of a reggaeton dance club, as a Terry Scholar, as a Spring 2024 Friar inductee, which I want because of merits, not just because I am a woman of color. The multiple resources I once offered to these students, regardless of race, sexuality, or background, they all benefited from them. Researches such as the Gender and Sexuality Center, the First Fearless Leadership Institute program, the MEC, the DCC Global Abroad Study Scholarship, and the Bonner program are a few of resources that future generations like the little girl living inside of me will no longer have, thanks to you. The University of Texas at Austin preaches in their engraved stones that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Guess what, Senator Creighton? We know the truth and SB 17 does not set us free. When you say that what starts here changes the world, what world are you referring to? I cannot possibly imagine that it is the same world that we, students, faculty, staff, and people are tirelessly trying to change and save. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Senator Menendez.
Thank you. And a lot of people have handed out their testimonies. I noticed you were reading yours. I want to ask everyone who has not provided us a copy, if you don't mind. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't want to be presumptuous and speak for the whole committee, but if those of you who don't mind, I'd love to get a copy of y'all's testimony, and maybe if you provide it to the committee, but I definitely would like to have one. I think as we move forward, we need to have hard copy of the words that you've spoken here so that we can look back as we move forward and make decisions. We need to listen. Your words can't be just laid to rest here. They need to live on. Thank you.
And if I may just add real quickly, I just want to say, Mr. Menendez, as a Latina, I find strength to sit up here because you're sitting there. And so please, please, please just listen to us. And don't just listen. Think about the future. And these are lives impacted. I should be studying. I should be working for an internship to work here. I should not be sitting here crying, pleading to stop killing children and to stop, oppressing us. I'm wearing a pin that says silence by the oppressed, and it is unfortunate that you are the ones doing that to us. Thank you.
Okay, members, Chair calls Ann Lewis, Tegan Stump, Ruth Masters,